This isn't usually what I post, but I thought with the rise of wars and the thought of wars upcoming, I would do a little simple video about survival guides, okay? So, this is like mainly food. These trees here, you might look at the beans here, apologies, and think you can't eat them. You can eat these. Give me a sec. You can eat these beans. Just take into consideration, they may not taste the best. So, obviously, in a war situation, you wouldn't have actual heat. But when you do have any kind of heat or seasoning, do like put seasoning on this, because you could eat it, but it doesn't taste amazing. My brother loves eating these for some reason. Pine you can eat as long as it's not certain types of pine, like white pine or some other pine. You can eat the pine cones. They make amazing pine cone jelly, I've heard. So in a survival world, eat pine cones. You can eat the leaves of it. Obviously it's not gonna taste amazing, but it's edible and it's gonna like sustain you for a little bit currently. But usually in like the summertime or springtime where it rains a whole lot, there is something called ember jelly fungus, and that is edible. It does taste a little weird, but again, it's gonna give you some sustenance, and it is edible. Even if it's raw, it's edible. You can also eat acorns. Just soak it in water for a little bit to like let out the lectins. You can eat that raw as long as you soak it for like a little bit. But I do think they taste better when they're actually like cooked. This doesn't necessarily have to do with like food as much as it is like water, which is also something very essential that in a survival world we're not necessarily going to have. Don't mind my hair. You could do something very, very simple. You can have this little setup here. Don't mind the water. It's rainwater, which in a survival world you're not gonna have free access to water. This is just a paper towel. It's a very simple way to like filter your water. But once you get the actual pure clear thing, which this isn't yet, you still need to like heat it up and boil it before you can actually like drink it. But if you're in like a life or death situation, where you don't have access to fire, but you do have access to clothes, cotton is very good. Cotton clothes are very absorbent, but I do think some polyester and other clothes or rags that you would have on you would also be very good to filter out some stuff. I don't want to rip up my clothes currently, so we just got a paper towel. It also works with cardboard, I believe, and stuff like that. Very simple. You just have jar 1, container 1 with the rainwater that you've collected, and then you have jar 2, which this is actually being put upwards by a little T thing. You could just use it like if you find rock 1, rock 2, you can put the first one here and the second one there, just so there's like some gravity. Sorry. The only problem that I haven't yet figured out is what to do when you're actually filtering it, because mosquitoes, especially in the spring and the summer, they are so fast at actually like putting themselves into the water. Like there is currently mosquito like larvae in here, and I don't know how to actually like completely filter that out so that in like a survival world you wouldn't have some kind of mosquito larvae in container 1. But when it comes to container 2, like when this is completely filled with like pure kind of clean water, like it runs clear and you don't see like this cloudiness, you can like stay away from mosquitoes by putting in a jar with a lid. It doesn't necessarily have to be a jar. It can be, I'm running out of breath. It can be like a Coke bottle. Don't mind the color of it. I'm not actually using this for consumption. Again, don't mind the color on this. I'm also not using this for consumption. And I just changed the color on the two for a certain reason. Just make sure that you have something that's actually going to hold the water in and has a lid so that mosquitoes don't lay eggs in your water source, so you don't get sick or have malaria from mosquitoes. In a scenario where you don't have access to a fire, what I mean by that is like you have a match but you don't know how to keep that going, you can use this. Let's just say you have it on your like side or in your backpack. What you can do is you can make candle out of this. You can find any kind of like candle wax or anything like that, and this is flammable, obviously when it's not wet. This is currently wet, and it works very well. It works for not as long as a normal candle, like a good 30 minutes this works. So if you need a light source very, very quickly, but not for a very, very long time, this works great. To actually start a fire, you can't really use this. You can go back to where you got your pine cones that you were eating, that you were consuming, and you could just light that sucker on fire. It goes and it like keeps it on. So let's just say, oh my god, I'm talking so much. Let's just say that you're walking across a fire and someone put it out, and you're like, OMG, what in the world am I gonna do? You grab a few pine cones that you're keeping with them and have special oil in them that like really helps to kindle a fire. You throw them in there, you go, so let's just hope the fire that you see has still some red embers. Go, you shove the pine cones in there, and hopefully it will, like the oils in them will go, and it will help you restart a fire in a survival situation. Some people would want to use some kind of spray or something, like if you have perfume on you or something, because like alcohol, like rubbing alcohol, it doesn't work. It does help you go, but it just instantly goes out. Same with leaves. They do help a little bit, but they burn out so quickly that it wouldn't really help that much. That's why you need to primarily use pine cones if you're trying to rekindle a fire. That's your go-to survival guide, because I'm bored and school starts in several days and I don't know what to do. And in case we run into a fire and the only thing you have is your phone and a bunch of pine cones, acorns, or stuff like that.